All right, let's dig into that insurance and health insurance world a little deeper because recommendation number 5 is to evaluate the portability of your benefits and also evaluate your COBRA coverage. Portability means that there are certain group insurance plans at your employer that you can take with you if you follow certain guidelines when you leave that job. You see this most typically with life insurance and disability insurance. And I've covered many times on this podcast, and my preference is for your workplace coverage, especially for life insurance, to not be the bulk of your coverage, or definitely not be coverage on which you depend. I would prefer you have individually owned coverage that's separate from your employer. That said, you may not have followed that advice, and this may be insurance that you are counting on in the event that you die. And what you don't want is to happen is for, heaven forbid, you pass between jobs, and now all of a sudden your family is left with nothing. Same is true for disability insurance. If you're unable for some reason to qualify for individually owned disability insurance, group disability insurance may be all that you can be offered. And you want to make sure that if you can take that policy with you, that you consider doing so. In most cases, that portability is something that can act as a bridge. So even if it's something that you take with you until you find another job that offers group life insurance, and you can cut it at that time, but it's not something that you just want to walk away from without evaluating your options. Now, those are smaller types of insurances, not in terms of their importance, but in terms of the immediacy and the urgency with which you pursue them as compared to like a health insurance. So health insurance is something that is very, very heavy on people's minds, typically when they lose a job, because you don't want to be in a position, especially if you have a partner or heaven forbid, if you have children, where you have no health coverage. So in that instance, you typically have two options. You can have COBRA coverage, or you can have a qualifying life event that allows you to pursue a state plan outside of open enrollment. Let's dig into each of those options. COBRA coverage is basically the continuation of the health plan that you had at your previous employer. It's something where in most cases you have up to 18 months to have that COBRA coverage before you would have to find another plan, and up to 60 days to decide whether or not you're going to accept COBRA in the first place. That can vary depending on the reasons that you're being offered COBRA, but that's something that you'll see that's typical in that space. However, COBRA coverage is often very expensive. And the reason for that is most workplace plans in terms of health insurance, you pay as an employee a much lower cost than what it actually costs to cover you and your family. The reason for that is because many employers above a certain size, they subsidize the cost of your health insurance. So it may actually cost $1,800 a month, but you're paying $500 a month because they're paying $1,300 of that $1,800 on your behalf. We've seen scenarios where it's that big of a gap between what you pay and what it actually costs. We've seen scenarios where someone on a family plan went from paying $1,500 a month to almost $3,000 a month because of the quality of that plan in terms of what it cost them under COBRA. So it's something that you need to understand. Hey, if I want to keep that plan, I better really, really, really want to keep it because I'm likely going to pay much more for it. And the alternative is to use your termination as a qualifying life event to apply for a healthcare.gov plan outside of open enrollment. Open enrollment is typically in November or starts in November of each year. And if you're going to try to get a health plan on the exchange, you have to apply during that period of time. However, there are certain life events called qualifying life events, where if one of those things have occurred, you can apply outside of that open enrollment window. An example would be if you've had a child, if you've gotten married, if the person that you had health insurance through lost their coverage. Those are examples of qualifying life events. And a big qualifying life event is you losing your job and experiencing the loss of health coverage. So you can go on healthcare.gov in that instance. You can tell them the life event for which you qualify, and you can evaluate plans that are likely going to be at a significantly lower cost than what you're paying through COBRA. So it's really important that you understand the difference between these two plans so that you can build it into how you're going to move forward financially.